Duelist Nexus, along with some incredibly juicy 5D's legacy support to mark the show's anniversary, also brings us another incredibly forced Duel Monsters themed archetype based around a single monster used by Dinosaur Ryuzaki from the original Duel Monsters, who was, to say the least, not your most recurring character out there, seeing how he was only a threat for like Season 1 and one part of Season 4. Yeah, that's about it. So anyway, he is used a certain normal monster in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Around which the so-called King Rex archetype, which we are taking a look at today, is modeled after. So obviously, we have a very few amount of cards to take a look at today, since this is technically somewhat of a tech archetype, and we start off with the original normal monster, Two-Headed King Rex, which has the effect that that is a powerful monster whose two heads attack is 1. Well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it would have been nice to have this be an effect monster with the clause of this card can attack twice, which could have made it an actually decent beatstick for the very early days of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Because a 1600 attack was not too terrible for a main deck monster back in the day, and a main deck non-tribute monster back in the day, but yep, it was the era of normal monsters, can't really harp on it for too long. It's part of the archetype because, well, it received 2 retrains, and we also have some fusion monsters which require it as fusion material. So let's start going down the list, shall we? First off, after this we have Crawling Dragon number 2, which, funnily enough, isn't dragon, but a dinosaur type monster, even though it looks much more like a dragon type monster than a dinosaur monster, but whatever. Again, it has the exact same stats as Two-Headed King Rex, and really it's not worth admiring too much, so let's just move on to our first actual effect monster, even if it is almost 2 decades old at this point, if not more so. We have Blast Juggler, a level 3 with 800 attack and 900 defense, and you can only activate this effect during your standby phase. Tribute this face-up card to select and destroy 2 face-up monsters with an attack of 1000 or less. Again, horribly limiting and very underwhelming, especially for the time period of which this thing came out, and it really doesn't warrant much of a further discussion, other than the fact that it has a fusion monster which requires it, and Two-Headed King Rex, which was actually competitively ran for a bit, so yeah. Anyway, getting into this video proper, we have King Rex the Twin-Headed Dragon. This is a level 6 with the same stats as the original vanilla monster, and it has the effect that if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can only special summon him once per turn this way. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one monster on the field with an attack lower than the total attack of all dinosaur monsters you control, destroy it, and you can only use this effect once per turn. Okay, so dinosaurs can, yeah, this was obviously made to be generic dinosaur mode, dinosaur type support, but when looking at it in the vacuum of this support, dinosaurs don't have too much trouble generating decently sized fields for this thing to go off, and not to mention this thing's special summoning condition makes it a very nice Kickstarter for all of your dinosaur extra deck plays, even though dinosaurs are primarily not known as extra link spammers, but yeah, it can be a decent body. It's also a level 6 which can special summon itself, which again, you can use it as a material for Volcasaurus, for example, which is still one of the better dinosaur boss monsters that reside in the extra deck. So yeah, this one is perfectly alright, and I would heavily advise that you run at least 2 or 3 of these in any of your dinosaur based decks. Now we move on to the last main deck monster, that being King Rex the Dragon King, which is a level 9 this time, with double the attack of, well, almost double the attack of, no, it actually is exactly double the attack of the original vanilla monster and the previous monster. And it's also a dinosaur type monster, and when this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can make this card gain a second attack during this battle phase. Once per turn, except during the turn this card was summoned, you can target up to 2 monsters your opponent controls and destroy them. Okay, so this thing is essentially somewhat what the original vanilla monster should have been in the first place. Double attacker, and it kind of also harkens back to that age of Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the beginning, when those double attacking effects were all the rage, even though the original BLS Envoy of the beginning is hardly played nowadays because of the meta and all that. Its Link counterpart is much better in that regard. And not to mention that the second effect is a much more versatile version of the previous monster's effect, which is always welcome. The only possible downside this thing has is that it's level 9, which is a very obnoxious level to work with. But on the flip side, if True King of All Calamities ever gets unbanned, this will be another great monster to use as material for that monster, along with Lithosagim, which also synergizes really well with dinosaurs, and it was the reason why it was on the limited list for a bit. So yeah, King Rex the Dragon King is actually really good, and I would recommend it at 1 or 2 spots in your main deck. And that does it for main deck monsters, and to close off we have fusion monsters. First of which being Cybersaurus, which is a level 8 fusion with 1800 attack and 1400 defense. Requires Blast Juggler and 2-headed King Rex's fusion material and has no additional effect, and it was only ran competitively because it was a highly decent instant fusion target for the earlier days of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then we have the 1 level higher Brachioradius, which requires 2-headed King Rex and Crawling Dragon number 2 as fusion material, has more attack and is 1 level higher, like I said, which didn't saw any play back when Cybersaurus kept seeing constant competitive play, well, almost constant. But nowadays he might be seeing some play due to it being a level 6 non-effect fusion monster, which can be brought out with Ready Fusion and can also be a good material for Volcasaurus, which I mentioned earlier. Anyway, time for the grading, and yeah, this is mainly a tech archetype, so nothing is getting past a 1 out of 3, like it always does, so I won't be grading them. So yeah, that is it for this very short and brief archetype. Again, really gotta appreciate how Konami just over-fixates on the OG Duel Monsters show, the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, to the very last possible minute. And yeah, it could have been an incredible opportunity to get some really long-awaited 5Ds era-related support, because the Duelist Nexus, the set in which these guys are coming out, is themed all around 5Ds, and we already got some very delicious cards, which we will be taking a look at rather soon in a new Archetype rematch volume, which I can't wait to get my hands on them when they get released. But instead we have the pack space filled up with these things. But yeah, what do you gotta do? I guess, please, if you are watching this, Konami, please let the set include the new Fortune Ladies support. This is like the perfect time to do it. It's been how many years since Rising Rampage? Well, it hasn't been that long since Rising Rampage, but Rising Rampage was the only set which hosted new Fortune Lady support after a long hiatus since the initial 2 sets where the initial Fortune Ladies came out. So yeah, fingers crossed, here's hoping. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this. Stay tuned for more Words, Walkthroughs and updates. Have yourselves a great day, and I will see you all next time.